Well, my name is Royce Hall. I'm the host of Coffee Dreaming. It's your community for sales, service, and marketing built around the Salesforce community. And I'm here today with Larry Hill, the founder of Leaping Fox. Great to have you here today, Larry.
Yeah, great to be here, Royce. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, Larry, you and I connected several months ago at a Salesforce event up in New York. It was great to meet you. Great to connect with you again here. And first of all, I think on this show, I want to get to know you. So tell me something mind blowing, entertaining, something about yourself that we didn't know already, man.
Well, hey, maybe for starters, I've been selling for longer than half the population's been alive. How about that?
Okay.
I'm a I'm a 40-year plus guy. I go back to mainframes. I sold IBM mainframes a very long time ago. Helped with the introduction of the PC. Got into the cloud. I've been in the cloud for 15 years now, and it's a very exciting place to be. It's the speed of the speed of change that I've seen in the marketplace in 40 years has been pretty remarkable. And the cloud just has sort of supercharged that change because it's so much easier to put software up and make it available for people to use.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. There's the thing that amazes me. I've not been in software sales quite as long as you have, but the thing that amazes me is like people are still using those mainframes. Like
Oh
they're
yeah,
still selling them. So
IBM still sells $6 or $8 billion a year in mainframes. I mean, it
there
just you
you
can't
go.
get rid of them. The code is just infinite amount of code.
Well, there you go. That's your next wave of business is supporting those mainframes. You have a niche
Yeah.
there.
Well, they've still got the COBOL programmers making 200,000 bucks a year because nobody knows COBOL anymore.
That's right.
So it's been great to get in. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem now for 14 years. I got in back in the early classic days. I had been up. I had a startup that was on Sugar CRM. Wasn't good enough. Salesforce was the up and comer back then, and basically the people in the company I was with said, if you want Salesforce, you do it. So I learned to be a Salesforce admin. I learned how to load data without screwing up the database, changing fields around a little bit, and I've emerged into what I would call a super user. You don't have too many sales, VPs, execs out there who also know how to run Salesforce, and that's if I've got sort of you know a special quality there, it's that I know both sides. I know
Hmm.
long time sales guy, and I also know enough of the innards of Salesforce and have been a user of it for long enough to know where it came up short for me, and what I where I took it from that shortcoming.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting perspective. I think that here in a second we'll dissect kind of a couple of different parts of that. But as I was telling you, the show is about helping people who are Salesforce users, right? So the people who are salespeople, the people who are in marketing, so people who are in support roles. I
Yep.
think a lot of messaging out in the community focuses on the tech side of that, and I want to focus a little bit on the business side of things. So
Sounds good.
before we jump into that second part, which is you've built a solution, which I want to highlight. Let's take a brief detour to that 40 years of sales experience that you have. I'm a not younger. I'm older than I care to admit, but like I'm still fairly new in my sales career as I see it. So drop some wisdom on me. Like, what is something that, or maybe a couple of things in your 40 year sales career that doesn't necessarily have to be Salesforce, but what is something that you wish that you knew when you were younger, or something that like was a big aha moment for you in your sales career?
Well, it's probably the biggest insight is just trying to keep track of everything that you have to do. That is just, I've been manual on that. I've used outliners. I've used all sorts of things. I tried to use Salesforce. Um, Keeping track of everything you need to do on a daily basis, all the commitments that you make, all the obligations to get back to people, that sort of thing, really requires a system, right? And I did it for 25 years on a single, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, which was pretty efficient. The beginning of the week, I would list all of my deals down one side, fill them in with the last 2 or 3 things that I had done, plus the next 2 or 3 things I wanted to do. And then I would have the entire territory right there on a single piece of paper. The problem is it's on a piece of paper, right? It's disconnected. I mean, I got into outliners and all sorts of to-do things but still, if I wanted to call somebody, I couldn't just click on a phone number. I had to go look them up in, as it turns out, Salesforce, and, do it from there. And it was 2, 3, 4 steps to do that. So that's what I've sort of focused in on, is to have the whole, your day basically as a salesperson all online. So you can capture the whole thing and you can be very efficient about operating it. And you capture the detail in the system rather than on, piece of paper.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me, that kind of history, the evolution, as you're talking about the evolution of technology, but also the evolution of workflow, right? And going from analog to digital, going from pen and paper, which I'm a lover of pen and paper, by the way. I don't know if I ever told you, but I make fountain pens. Like, I love pens. I love the experience of writing with fountain pens. I love the experience of nice, smooth paper. There's nothing quite like it.
I was really into them a couple of years ago. See if I can find it. I had a really nice one back in the day when having, like top shelf fountain pens was a thing. God, I got to dig that out. I know I've got one around somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's such a good experience. But to your point, like, that's harder to keep track of. And I think what stands out to me is I still run into a lot of companies. I'm sure you're the same way. I still run into a lot of businesses that still run that way. They still run on pen and paper, and it's just amazing to me that
it's the most inefficient way to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's just still that education of, like, even as we're talking about like AI and everything these days, like, there's still so many people that need that digital transformation. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, well, everybody needs to get fully online, and I know that there's in some cases there's a reluctance with salespeople to like give up all the information, but the trade-off is, if you want to be efficient about it, the information's got to be in the system.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
The key is just to make it not excruciating to put it in, which is part of the issue that I ran into with Salesforce. I've been using it for 14 years, and frankly, I've kind of hated it ever since I started using it. It was slow, it's clunky. I mean, they've sped it up a little bit recently because they're rewriting a lot of the objects that the main components into Lightning Web Components, but it's still kind of clunky to use.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that then. So, obviously one of the biggest transformations in your sales career is moving to the cloud, and that allows you to be so much more efficient as a salesperson, right? That allows you to be more efficient. But as a user, there's still frustration around, like, I know I've talked to people that are like, I click the thing and it loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, and it just takes forever to load. Or, what I hear a lot is, like, I have to click, 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 go down a whole rabbit trail to get to what I want. And people are like, well, is there an easier way to do this? And I think what you've come up with is that easier way. So tell us a little bit about what you've built.
Yeah, so, I mean, nobody wants to click 5 times to type in "call Bob." I mean, it's just, nobody wants to go. And that's basically what you have to do inside Salesforce these days, to leave yourself a note to call Bob. So I go back to ACT, in the 90s, one of the first, laptop based CRMs. And, it had an interesting approach where it had lists on the left. You click on the list on the left, you get the details on the right. Very, very simple, very straightforward, very usable way. The problem is that they tried to distribute the database out onto a laptop, and you were constantly running into synchronization issues, which basically killed it. And that's what the cloud has done. It's provided the solution to that, is that you don't need data on your laptop. It's all in the cloud. No synchronization necessary. Happens kind of automatically. So I've been using Salesforce for, I guess, 7-8 years when I saw the announcement of Lightning Web Components, which is kind of a one of the best hidden secrets of Salesforce, because they realized that they went a little too early. They went sort of pre-Web 2.0 in building Lightning, and they did some of their own standards around it. And what showed up, I mean, their objective there was not so much usability as in flexibility of design, right? Put lists wherever your related lists, wherever you want on a screen, and give the sales operations people ultimate no code flexibility to arrange those screens. Problem is they're what you end up with is still a little bit clunky. It's still multiple keystrokes, and the performance initially, I mean, it was the biggest irony really in the marketplace that they called it Lightning, and it was much slower than Classic, right? And for a good 8-9 years, it was slower. Now, in the background, it's interesting. They've been rewriting all of the main components, all the base components, and a lot of subsidiary ones in regular Lightning into Lightning Web Components to make it faster. Lightning Web Components is kind of cool because it's Web 2.0 and it's HTML5. And what does that mean? Well, basically, the big benefit is a lot of the code runs in the browser now. It's almost like going back to the old client-server days, so that it's just going to the back to the server for data instead of all the screens. And most of the bulk of the data transfer is in the graphics and the screens. So if you can establish those in the browser and just ask for data, it's just going to be faster. And Lightning Web Components is really, really fast. I mean, the app that I built, the Express Console, is the fastest app you've ever seen on Salesforce, bar none. I put it up against anything because it's 100% Lightning Web Components.
That was something you're gonna have to share with us a link to your video to your app. But that was one of the things that impressed me about your app is like it's fast, but also like just the feature set of like not only does the code run faster, but like the way that you've set it up like sets me up as a salesperson to execute faster, right? So again, rather than having the 5 clicks to accomplish something, you can hover over a field and bring up related information, and
yes.
It's very 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 quick for the sales team.
Yeah, I think it cuts. I mean, haven't done a formal study, but I think it cuts about half the clicks out of Salesforce, because the idea is instead of taking you off to another screen, you can hover on an object, an account, a contact, or an opportunity, and get a pop-up. Almost like in Wikipedia. You ever see a Wikipedia page where there's all these hot links to other pages? You hover on them and you get the beginning of it. Similar to that. So that instead of having to go off to another screen for the key data, like what's a phone number, what's an email address, something like that, you can just pop it up if you've got the contact showing. Same thing with the opportunity. You can change, opportunity data like forecast amount or timing right from a pop-up, instead of having to go off to a screen, which takes a response time cycle, and then come back, which takes another one. So the whole idea is pop-ups for everything that keep you on a single page, and that cuts the effort down substantially. And then the other one that people liked from Classic was it was really easy to go into edit mode in Classic, right? If you want to just make a quick change, click edit, almost instantaneously you're right into it. So the pop-ups in the Express Console all show up in edit mode. You don't have to go into edit mode. You can just change a number and hit enter and save it. So what I've tried to do is where anywhere that took three clicks or movements, I've cut it down to 2 or 1. And the net is it's about half of the effort to use as compared to, say, the opportunity tab in regular Lightning.
That's awesome. So, what are I guess what is feedback that you're getting from your clients? Like, what are people seeing in terms of how this is working for them?
Well, it's one of the very few times that you find salespeople actually loving Salesforce, right? I mean, that's almost an oxymoron, right?
uh,
Now, you're always going to have resistance. Salespeople don't like to do data entry. I mean, it just that's and there's a component of it in that. But if they have to do data entry, they don't want it to take a lot of time or a lot of effort. And so what I've tried to do is build an environment where I think a salesperson can spend about 80% of their day, because once you've created an opportunity, once you have a deal going, right? You just operate from the opportunity tab today. You would do the same thing with the Express Console, and you can get everything done in terms of taking notes, putting to-dos together, deciding when you're going to do things. That's all compressed into a single sort of cockpit that gives you way more flexibility um, to both input and to interlink with regular Salesforce. One of the big things that I've done with the Express Console is to put basically lightning links in on every object. So if you want to go directly to your default page layout for, say, a contact, it's just a single click takes you right there, and then a single click brings you right back to the Express Console. So I've tried to. It's not a place you have to live in isolation. You can jump in and out of Lightning very, very efficiently with the Express Console, because that's what people want to do. There's obscure custom fields. I mean, one of the things I've seen out there is that so many companies have a million fields that they want to gather data on, so they want the salespeople to fill that in. So you see initial screens in Lightning being two or three folds down. I mean,
right.
it takes you two or three movements down, pages down, to get to a field. So what I've tried to do is take the 80-20 rule, saying what are the 20% of the fields that people use 80% of the time, and display those, and make it all in one screen. No scrolling, minimal amount of scrolling. The scrolling is within the screen rather than to a lower part of the screen. It's all set in a single space. So it's just way more efficient to basically run your day, figure out what you're going to do. It's got a to-do list that I call the today list, because it's basically everything in your Salesforce that has today's date on it. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to put priorities on it. You can drag and drop something that one of the things you've never seen in Salesforce before is drag and drop. The world's been doing it for 20 years. Salesforce hasn't quite gotten around to it, but they did enable it in Lightning Web Components. So if you got a to-do that, I want to do that today, you grab it and drag it up to the to-do list, and it pops in. So just real, simple, what seems like me in terms of user experience blocking and tackling,
Mm-hmm.
um, starting to provide that really for the Salesforce ecosystem, the Sales Cloud in particular.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. As you were as you're talking about that, about it's somewhere you can just live. I think that is the vision of Salesforce, right? Like the vision for Salesforce is this is a place where you can just live all day. You don't have to go to your email. You don't have to open other apps. It's all in Salesforce.
Yeah.
And as we both
That's what
know,
some
like
people do.
people don't like to do that. So it's kind of like you're trying to you're making Salesforce what it should be, right? You're giving
Yeah.
people the experience that they're looking for from Salesforce.
Yeah. You gave me a card, but it's from the 1970s.
That's right. Oh, come on,
I'm
late
kidding.
nineteen
Maybe
hundreds, baby.
you gave
Uh,
me transportation, but I don't want to be seen driving it. It's
that's right.
yeah. So basically, it's opportunity management. It's what I call next generation opportunity management. It's someplace you can live. It's got built-in to-do capability, and it's where a rep, instead of spending an hour a day in a system of obligation putting in the data that you're required to put in, you can actually manage your day, manage your pipeline out of this app, and enjoy the experience.
Hmm. Very good. And if we want to get your app, we can go to the App Exchange and find it there under Express Console.
Yes. Express Console, and the easiest way, there's a website. My website has got a 3-minute video on it called 7 Things You've Never Seen Before in Salesforce. And it's leapingfox.com/7, the number 7 things, all one word. leapingfox.com/7 things. And that'll give you a 3-minute overview of some of the neat things that I've done with the Express Console that you pretty much can't find anywhere else in Salesforce.
Well, we'll definitely link that to this video so people can find that pretty easily.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, Larry, thanks for being my guest today. I appreciate the time. And everybody, go check out Leaping Fox and the Express Console.
Love to talk to you.